Today we're going to be talking about something slightly different. We're going to be talking about esports. Generally on this channel, basically all the time, we only talk about F1, seeing as it is an F1 channel. But, obviously we have a 2-week break and, F1 Esports kept popping up on my feed. It kept popping up mind you, I haven't watched the whole of the F1 Esports season, so I'm watching it very much towards the end. It was the last 2 rounds that I watched. I watched quali in the race for both of, I watched 3 rounds. I watched Brazil, I watched Qatar, and I watched Abu Dhabi. Now, Brazil being a pretty decent, nice race, I watched Qatar, and in Qatar, I did notice that the driving standards of F1 Esports is bad. It's not that great. There is a lot of, I don't know what the damage setting is set to, but I was definitely surprised the amount of, dive bombing. I don't know a name. I mean, we all know it's Ronhaar. We're going to have to talk about in a second, especially when we talk about Abu Dhabi. But there was a lot of moves where you kind of just asked yourself, no, this kind of does feel like a little bit of an F1 lobby, except everyone just has really good pace. It doesn't feel like the actual racecraft is being put on, it doesn't feel like great racecraft is being put on show. In Qatar, Ronhaar, to catch you all up, did an opposite strategy. So he was going to have fresher tyres towards the end, softer tyres towards the end. He was making a charge through the field. He needs to essentially win the race to keep himself in contention against Jarno Opmeer. I was rooting for Jarno Opmeer. I've seen some of Jarno Opmeer's videos. I'm not like a crazy esports guy, but I know who Jarno Opmeer is. I've seen some of his stuff. He seems like a cool guy, funny guy. So I'm like, let me root for Jarno. Thomas Ronhaar, in coming through the field, completely doesn't make a single move. And we're talking in Qatar now. Doesn't really make a single move. No, he makes 2 moves cleanly, and then he makes 6 or 7 moves on different drivers. Every single move is in the same corner, and he's basically pushing them out of the way with contact, which led me to believe contact was completely turned off in F1 Esports. And some of the comments I was reading kind of, I guess, agreed with that opinion that contact must be, turned off, or damage must be turned off. Because when I play F1, I'm not saying, I do play on simulation. I play on simulation damage, but no floor damage. Or full damage, but no floor damage. So for me personally, I do keep it very light as far as trying to make contact. I'm always trying to avoid making contact with other drivers. But it felt weird watching F1 Esports and knowing that I drive cleaner when I play F1 games than esports drivers. Obviously, Ronhaar got a penalty for this, but the penalty, although it was bad, it wasn't proportional to the sheer amount of moves he made. And whilst he was doing those moves, the commentators, I don't know how else to say this other than they were they were jacking this guy off. This guy was using his front wing as a battering ram, and they were screaming and loving it. In my head, I was like, are you guys not seeing this? Are we not watching the same race? At first, it was he made contact. The second time, he was the third time, he was okay, he's doing this on purpose. He genuinely is. This is what he's doing. Come now to Abu Dhabi. Jarno has a bad qualifying. He needs to score, I think it's P8, to definitely win the championship no matter what. Ronhaar basically needs to win the race with Jarno not score any points, but Jarno is P13. So it's possible. It's definitely possible. It's on the cards. Jarno's pace isn't looking that strong. Ronhaar, in fighting everyone else, loses his front wing to damage, which was the first time I was okay, so there is actually damage in F1 Esports because some of the moves he pulls are kind of crazy. Credit to Ronhaar, he still had really good pace, considering the fact that his wing was broken. But that didn't prepare me for the cascade of just absolute terrorism that he was about to unleash on the field. I don't even know how many moves he did. I'm just going to focus on one specific move. It was the move on Jarno Opmeer himself. Jarno has come through the field, through pit stops, through the strategy, and has started to make his way up the field. He's in P6 or P7, something like that, and he's trying to overtake Ronhaar. Ronhaar closes the door, fine, live to fight another day. Another lap goes by, or another straight goes by, and Jarno overtakes him. Now, this is around the bend at the start of Sector 3. They go round past Sector 3. It's a pretty tight section. You can't overtake in Sector 3. I think that's pretty common knowledge in Abu Dhabi. You can't really overtake in Sector 3. But Ronhaar decides to kamikaze himself into the back of Jarno Opmeer. I don't know why, because either way, he would still need to win the race, and him kamikaze himself would only cause more damage, which it did. He completely obliterated his front wing in what I can only assume is the most F1 lobby moments of F1 Esports. Now, I'm not saying that F1 doesn't have its moments. I'm talking about actual F1 with, like, you know, the drivers. I'm not saying F1 doesn't have its moments where drivers go a bit crazy, where they don't do things that are nuts. But then again, I just think it's not needed. And also, the penalties, I do not think reflect the actions that were taken. Especially when it feels like it's being goaded onto by the commentary. The move on Jarno, I think, was when even the commentary had to take a step back and go, yeah, that was a bad one. You probably shouldn't do that. Again, I'm not really the biggest esports guy. Maybe this is commonplace and I'm just used to, I don't know, clean racing. But it does feel like F1 Esports is a bit of a mess in some aspects. And driving standards is one of them.